Hi guys, good morning and welcome to my podcast. My name is Mandy and you can find me on the internet on Ravelry, Instagram, and now I'm on Blue Sky as Mandy Vaughn Knits. I am a 39-year-old woman from southeastern Michigan and I love to knit and crochet. And more specifically, I love to knit and crochet garments. So this is my podcast where I come to talk to you about yarn, knitting, crochet, patterns, lots of patterns. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please stick around. I would love to have you. So I have had a crazy busy week, and especially last weekend was very, very busy. So if you caught my last podcast, you already know that I was doing a virtual knitting retreat, and I had a blast. It was so much fun. I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. I actually printed out the schedule so I could kind of let you know what I thought of each event and basically just a little bit about what each event was. I really did like it. I thought that it was a blast. If you don't know, I am incompletely paralyzed, so I use a wheelchair, and a knitting retreat is not something that I really thought was in my future just because of mobility issues. I mean, technically, I know I could go to one and I know I could do it, but me and my husband have 2 young kids, and it's just a lot of extra. When you're in a wheelchair, sometimes it's what am I trying to say? It's an effort to get out and do things. I mean, even if you have a chronic illness, I'm sure you guys know what I mean. Okay, with all of that intro said, I am going to start with admin. So first on admin, we have a pattern to give away, a digital pattern prize. And I give away one every podcast. And the way that you enter is you just leave a comment down below. And on the next podcast, come back and I will draw a winner from last week's podcast. So the rules are that you can only win once a month. That's just to make it kind of fair to everybody. And the second rule is that the pattern price must be $15 or under. Okay, with all of that said, I am going to leave a blank spot right here. And if that was you, please reach out to me on either Instagram or Ravelry as Mandy Vaughn Knits. Let me know what pattern that you want me to gift you, and let me know your Ravelry username if you use Ravelry. If you don't, let me know and we can work through it and figure out a way to get you your pattern. I know that there are other pattern platforms, like I think PayHip is one. But anyways, it's the internet. It's the digital age. We can figure out a way to do it. So, okay, that was that admin. And the second admin is, I don't think there's a second admin, but I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing instead. So this cardigan right here, this is my favorite cardigan. This is my favorite cardigan I've ever made. I need to make another one. I love it. This is Always There from Locatelli. This is, like I said, my favorite cardigan. This is the cardigan that I wear all the time. This is knit from Borrego Vintage DK. And I can't remember the colorway, but it should be easy to figure out if you look at the colorways. And I love it. The yarn is so comfy and cozy. I can't remember what the yarn is. I'm for some reason I'm thinking it's some kind of wool and maybe acrylic. But I'll put the information down below so that you can know. It's DK weight, and I love everything about this cardigan. I love the way that it fits. I love how the sleeves are not as loose as the body, and I love how the body's oversized, and the yarn just feels super nice, and I would definitely make this again. And I've really thought about it. Let's see. I've thought about it, and I'm sure I have some DK weight yarn in there. But the problem is I want to make another one in this yarn, and I don't have any more of this yarn. So my goal is, and this is a pretty hefty goal, I'm going to knit a lot from my stash to make room for DK weight yarn so I can make another one of these. we'll see how it goes. Okay, if you've watched a couple of the previous podcasts, I've talked about how I want to turn February into kind of a Fix-It February. And I got the idea from a commenter. And so this was the first thing that I needed to fix. And let me kind of straighten it out here because I've never blocked this. I worked on this just a little bit ago, and the problem with it, this is the Friend to Friend, and the pattern's by Leslie Friend, and this is knit in Hue and Me by Lion Brand. It is just a small kind of poncho that goes just over your shoulders to kind of keep them warm. The problem that I had with this, whenever I completed it the first time, is the neck. And it's me. It's always me. I'm not good at necks. And I don't know if it's because I think my head is much bigger than it is or what, but it seems like a lot of the times my neck, they just turn out oversized. I think that what I should do is either stick with V-necks like this, which I like, or maybe go down even more than they recommend for the neck ribbing, because I know you're supposed to use the smaller needle size for ribbing, but it doesn't seem to do much good up there. So I'm thinking that at least when I feel that there's potential to be an issue, like with this, with the bulkier yarn, that I should definitely bring it down. But what I did, and I did this on Friday, it is Saturday in Mandy's world right now, so you're seeing this on Tuesday, but hi future, I hope it's going good. But what I did was I took out the original neck, and I took out you were supposed to knit a little bit in stockinette, right, after you did the neck decreases. So I took that part out and I kept on decreasing. I decreased for about, I don't know, probably 4 extra rounds. And then I basically did the neck ribbing, cast it off, tried to get it on my head, and guess what? You'll never guess. Yes, it was too small. So I took out that cast off and I did an extra stretchy cast off, and it fits now, so that's good. And it's not as baggy as it was before. I'm gonna try to put it on. Might look a little bit weird, and I'm gonna try not to get my hair all messy, but okay, so you can kind of see, if I can get it right. Sorry, I don't normally move, well, yes, I normally do move like a robot. It's the paralysis. But as you can see, the neck does, I think, look a lot better like this. And I actually really like this. I can't wait to block it. It's gonna keep me so warm when I'm working. And now that I've kind of gotten a good idea of what I want to do to make these, I think I'm going to make, I have quite a bit of Hue and Me, and I bought them to make gifts for people that I know of this. So I think I am going to make just different sizes and see what happens. If nobody wants them, then I will use them to donate to the upcoming fundraiser that we're going to be having. So I love it. I do. I think that it came out a lot better, and I'm very glad that I took, and you know what? It was just like this much time, so it wasn't a big deal. But just taking out that neckline, reworking it, took it from I'm not going to wear it at all to I really like it now. So I'm going to block this tonight, and it should be ready when I go back to work on Tuesday. Oh, I'm happy. Okay, I better take it off before I get too warm. By the way, how's the weather where you guys are? Because here in Southeast Michigan, we're under a winter snow advisory. And it's no joke, well, It's no joke for this part of the state. They're expecting like 13-ish inches, which I know might not be a big deal for other people, but for here it is. We don't normally get this much snow. So it started on Friday and just snowed and snowed and snowed. And it's snowing today, and it's gonna snow all night into like, I think the winter weather advisory was till 4 a.m. tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, like I said, that was the friend to friend. I'm very happy, and you will be seeing it in the future because I have a whole bunch of those different Hue and Me jewel tones. And another thing, what is the fiber content on Hue and Me? I think it's 100% acrylic, right? I'm putting it down below. I'm almost positive that's what it is. And if it is, those would be good donations. Possibly to places like nursing homes and things like that, because think about it, for someone like me who it's just a lot easier to wear like a poncho like that as opposed to keeping like a blanket around your shoulders. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I think that it would be kind of good for a nursing home type place. Okay. I'm going to show you my ranunculus next. And if my voice sounds a little bit scratchy, it is what it is. It's cold season, and while I don't have a cold, my throat has been bothering me. So I've got needles in every place possible on this. So I'm trying to kind of untangle myself. I finally finished the first ball of care yarn. And okay, so this is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. So take a look at this. All of this body was knit with one ball and quite a bit of this arm. So I am honestly thinking that I could probably get if I knit a loose gauge like this, I could get something substantial for my daughter out of the remainder of the ball that I have, because technically this is pretty long. This is probably long enough for me. I am 4'10", so I am short, and all I really need to do is add some ribbing at the bottom and then finish this sleeve and then come over here and pick this sleeve up. So I'm thinking there will be enough for her. Oh, I love this. This is gonna look so pretty over something white. Anything white, honestly. This color is electric pink, and the yarn is Care Yarn, and I got it from the Knitting Loft, and it's a crimped yarn. Let me see. I can just show you the ball to show you what it looks like. So it looks like this, and you can see how it's crimped. And it's making it's very fluffy, it's very soft. This yarn is super soft. And I'm putting up the yarn content down below because I can never remember anything. But I believe it has some silk and some mohair in it. And I'm sure something else. So it's down below, but it's like a cloud. You know what? This would be great. This yarn would be excellent for like a Cloud by Locatelli, or Ranunculus, or really anything. Anything that would look good, light and flowy, like the finger weight cardigan, things like that. But I'm very happy with my choice in picking it, and I can't wait for this to get done. This is actually very pretty. I'm not sure where I'm going to wear it. It doesn't seem lounging around playing video games appropriate, so. That pattern, this pattern, the Ranunculus, is very, very popular. And there are people out there who have made like 10 of them, even more. And I really wanted to knit this because I've never made one. This is my first one. And in the back of my head, I'm like, well, why do people love this pattern so much? I really want to try it just to, you know, figure out, see what I think about it. And so far, I do really like it. I think that one of the appeals is the loose gauge that you knit with. This is knit on a 10, so it's 6 millimeter. At least that's what I'm using. And so you're knitting, this is fingering weight, and on a 10, it's very loose, it's very flowy. It doesn't take that long to knit up, and the lace is very easy. And it ends up with you end up with a very flowy, delicate looking garment. So I definitely see the appeal for it. And I'm not gonna lie, it's very nice to knit with a 6 millimeter as opposed to what I'm normally knitting with. I love fingering weight yarn, but I tend to knit with like a 3.5. So it takes a lot longer than that 6. Okay, so this is the only other thing I've been working on. And I say only other thing because this is a test knit. I am test knitting for Andrea Gone, and I love test knitting for her. She has awesome patterns, and her testing is ran very smoothly, and she gives you plenty of time, and she's always so helpful and supportive, and it's great. But this is the Wildflower Pullover, and this, I steeked it. I guess I should lead with that. So with this is an all over colorwork sweater. You cast on at the bottom, down here, and you work up, 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 and you work up to the armholes where you cast on some stitches for a steek, and then you work up, up, up while you put in neck stitches right here, and you're decreasing, so you're forming the collar. And then when you're all done, you go ahead and you mattress stitch the shoulders together, which I learned how to do from one of my virtual knitting retreat classes, so yay! Okay, anyways, I was working on this during the retreat, and by the time the retreat was done, I was pretty much ready to reinforce my steek stitches and cut everything. So that's what I did. And I think that it came out pretty well. One of the things I learned from the last time is that rather than use that invisible thread, because I found it kind of scratchy on my, like I used it on my voyage, I used like a very not as scratchy thread. So I don't know what kind of thread it was. I inherited like a sewing kit from my great aunt, I believe, and it was a thread that she had in there. And then after I reinforced it with, first I crochet reinforced it. So I took a crochet hook and I reinforced both sides of the steek, and then I hand sewed, reinforced it with thread. Then I cut it, and then I took the steek and I folded it over and I sewed it onto the garment itself, but in a way to where you can't see it from the front, just because I wanted to make sure that the steeks were tacked down. I probably overdid it, and I'm going to tell you why. I am knitting with Holst Tides, which is 70% silk, and no, I'm looking right at the label and I still can't get it right. It's 70% wool and 30% silk. And it's not that it's rustic feeling, but the yarn is very grabby to itself. So I'm almost positive I could have needle felted it. I could have done this in a different way. I probably could have gotten away with just crochet reinforcing it, but you know what? I just wanted to be safe. And after the retreat, I was pretty tired, and I just wanted to make sure that after doing all of this work, it didn't randomly decide to come out. So I cut the neck hole and I picked up some stitches for it, and I picked up both sides of the sleeves after I cut those sleeve steeks. So now I'm just working on the sleeve, and it's a long haul. I have Monday off though, so I'm very happy because this is going to be my game plan for this weekend. And on Monday, I need to get some progress on this. The test knit ends on, I think, March 20th-ish. So I want it done well in advance so that I can take some pictures. And colorwork sleeves are hard. Like, don't let anybody tell you that all over colorwork sleeves aren't hard, because I can't show you, but because it's so hard to push the yarn around the needles. I'm using 9-inch circulars. What needle size? I believe they're 3.75. Yep, I'm knitting it on a 3.75. I had to actually bring my gauge up to kind of hit the pattern gauge, or bring my needle size up to hit the pattern gauge for this. But it is very difficult to get this yarn to kind of go around the needle, and I'm constantly, you know, stretching my stitches to make sure that they're not too tight. And it's just a difficult endeavor. Plus, I find it interesting. Like, if you look down here, this is blocked, but look it up here. Look at the difference. It's all crinkly up here, and down here it's all flowy. Oh, I love it. I can't wait for it to get done, and I'm very excited about the colors that I used. I have some ideas, or well, I have one idea for more of this Holst yarn. And I know I've shown you guys because I was trying to figure out the colors to use for this. I have like an ice blue. Is that what I want to call it? Like a light blue. So I have light blue, black, and red, and white, cream, something like that. And I have like a poncho pattern that I want to work on with it. I just need to figure out how I'm going to place the colors, and I'm kind of thinking I want to make this one the main color. That's crazy though, right? Knitting like the whole thing in black and using the other colors as the color work. Somebody please tell me I'm crazy, because black knitting's hard, right? Although if you look at this, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. It's kind of heathered. But I don't think it's going to be heathered enough to make it easy to knit that. So I guess we're going to have to see. I might have to work on some swatches after I'm done with this to plot out the colors that I want to use. I think that might make it as the easiest. That might be the easiest kind of approach that I can take. But I definitely want to use Holst. I do have some super soft, but I don't have as many colors. And I really, honestly, I do like the tides better. But like I said, that was all of the knitting that I've gotten done. I think that was pretty good though. I'm doing good on the test knit. And it's only like February, I don't even know what day it is. I'll put it down below. So I do have time. I just, like I said, I never want to not complete something on time unless like I get struck by lightning, in which case I'll give myself grace. But okay, so now I said I was going to talk about the retreat, so I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about that. I went to the Jimmy Bean's virtual knitting retreat that they had. It was called the Biggest Little Getaway at Home, I believe. I'll put the information down below and kind of a QR code to the link if they still have it on their website. I know that one of the hosts had said that they were thinking about doing it in the future as well. And I had a blast, so I would love if they did that. Okay, it started on Thursday, and actually here in Eastern time, it started at 7 p.m. on Thursday. So basically the welcome was with Melanie Fallick, and she talked about her time in the knitting industry, and she went through the book that she had been working on and published, and it was just really cool to kind of get a different perspective on being an author and publishing books and things like that. She was very interesting, and I did enjoy listening to her. I believe she talked from 7 till 9, so that's a long time. So that was Thursday, and on Friday, it started at 10 in the morning here. So that was good because, like, if you think about it, there were people with Pacific time, and that would be like 7 a.m. for them. So that's really late, or not late, early. So on Friday at 10, we met with the Borrego design team, and that was really neat because they talked about all different types of patterns, their favorite yarns, and it was cool to see just all these different things coming from Borrego and how they picked different yarns and how they designed for different yarns and just everything. I thought that was really cool. I've never really sat in on kind of a knitting, I don't want to say lecture. It wasn't a lecture. It was very informal, but I've never sat around and listened to different designers and people that work at yarn companies talk about their different yarns, and I just thought that was so cool. After that, at 11:30 a.m. was the first class block. And for my first class, I picked a class with Patty Lyons, and it was called Patty's Knitting Bag of Tricks with Patty Lyons. And it was really cool. The classes were very small, and she basically talked about a lot of the stuff that I'm sure she talks about in her workbook and her book. I actually picked up her book and workbook, and it should be here next week, I believe on Tuesday. So I'm very excited about that, and I wanted to gauge if anybody's interested in doing like a knit along with her, working through her workbook. I think that would be a lot of fun. We could have prizes, we could work through the different swatches for her book and kind of learn different things about our knitting. Either way, you're definitely going to see me work through her workbook, or, well, work through her whole workbook, because one of my goals, like my overall life goal, is to become a better knitter. So I really believe that using her book and her workbook will help that. Just listening to her talk, and the class went from 11:30 to 1:30. So just listening to her talk and being that lucky to kind of have her explain different things about knitting and how to tighten stitches, or how to finish a row without having a loose stitch at the end, or how you wrap the yarn matters and which way to wrap the yarn in certain instances. It was just so useful, and I feel very lucky to have been able to take that class. So after the first class block, we had a teacher's roundtable, and that went from 2 to 3 p.m. And basically there were a whole bunch of teachers. So they basically broke the number of teachers in half, and they had the first group on Friday. And that was, like I said, from Friday from 2 to 3. And it was just talking to the teachers, hearing their different perspectives on the way technology has influenced knitting and what they think about different things. Tony Lipsy was there. That was really cool. And I thought that was awesome. Just hearing different knitting and crochet teachers talk about their industry and what they did previously before they entered the industry and their different backgrounds. I learned throughout the retreat that like a lot of knitting instructors come from math or science or like engineering backgrounds, like software programming. I thought that that was really cool. And it makes sense, right? Because there's just a lot of math that goes into kind of grading patterns and stuff. So after that teacher's roundtable, we had a hangout with Patty Lyons. So this was about an hour from 3:15 to 4:15, and she basically just talked about her book and her workbook and explained different things about like kind of like a back, what do I want to say? How do I say it? I'm trying to think of the words and I can't. Like it's not a sneak peek, it's like a making of. Like a making of her book, and she showed us some of the some of the art, because Franklin Habit does some of the drawing for the book. She showed some of the art that didn't make it in the book, which I thought was really cool, and kind of how the book evolved as it went. So after that, I totally went on her website to order the book and the workbook. Like I said, I think that it will be really cool. So if there's any interest in a knit along, please leave a comment down below and let me know. And I will host it, and we can have prizes and Zoom if anybody's interested. So, okay. After that, I had my second class, which was Join As You Go, Crochet with Lily Chin. Now, I took this class on purpose because I really need to know how to join crochet block to crochet block, and that's exactly what we got taught. Lily Chin is an awesome crochet teacher. She made sure that I understood everything that she was going through, and she was very interactive, and I enjoyed it. She gave me some tips on how to join like the 270 crochet blocks that I have together to kind of make a blanket without having to mattress stitch them all. She showed us some different designs that she had done using the different techniques we were learning. So I thought that that was a lot of fun. And I'm glad that I took that one, because everybody knows that, you know, making blocks is awesome, but making blocks and kind of joining them together as you go along is way more awesome. Okay, so after that, we had a sponsor chat. So throughout the retreat, we had 2 sponsor chats. This first one on Friday was with Rowan Yarns, and it went from 7 till 9. So this was probably my favorite part of the retreat, because I'm not very familiar with Rowan Yarns as like a whole. It's just not a yarn company that I've ever kind of looked at. So whenever she started talking about their designs and their yarns and their patterns, I started falling in love. So let me talk about 2 patterns that really caught my eye. And I actually got the yarn to make these 2 patterns because they're adorable. So this is called Potterdale, and this is from Quail Studio. Now this is knit with Rowan felted tweed, and I love this. I love this because of this right here. But there's also another reason that I really like it. The colors on this are amazing. I actually, and I'm going to be showing you colored pictures in just a second, but I actually swapped out the mint color for like a light magenta. So keep that in mind. That is the first one. And the reason that I actually picked this for a reason, and it's because this pattern is seamed. Now, I want to get better at seaming garments, and now that I've taken the class and I feel more confident in doing it, the best way to learn and get better at something is to practice. And if you're not practicing, right, you're not going to get better. So that is why I purposely picked that. And then this is the second one. And she showed this one because this is in, I think, Mode for Rowan. Mode at Rowan collection. So this is just a scarf, and I'm not a scarf person, but they did this in like a black, a light, like a black, a medium gray, and like a light gray. And I just loved how graphic it looked. But when I went to the website, they didn't have, what color didn't they have? I believe they didn't have like the medium gray. So I ended up kind of getting like, I can't remember. It was like a black. We'll talk about it whenever the yarn comes. But the colors that I picked were very nice. I got this though. This has the Potterdale in it. So I'm going to show you that one first, but I'm also going to show you some of the other ones. She went through these designs, and this wasn't the only one she went through, and all of them are gorgeous. I don't know how I have like not seen these before. I'm sure I've seen them. It's just nobody said, hey, look at me. So you can definitely see right there. Yeah. And then right there. I love this. I'm trying to see if I can find any other pictures to show you. Some of these are just so cute though. And this book, you know, I don't know. I was looking at this book, and so I have the pattern in here, and I'm sitting here thinking, how am I ever going to work through a pattern in a book? I don't work through book patterns. So I might have to figure out how to scan it and print it and then be able to work on it. So that is Mode at Rowan, and they have this design collection where they have a bunch of like very wearable knits, like stuff you can wear every day. And I really think that they've nailed it with some of these. Although, to be fair, I would totally wear that Potterdale everywhere. Or something like this. I already showed you guys that one. I must really like it. They're just all so pretty. And I'm loving color work right now, and I really like this one. So half of this book is just pictures. I've never had a Rowan magazine I've never had a Rowan magazine before, so I'm sure you guys already know this, but half of this book is just pictures of the knitwear. And I find that that's so cool. I really like this one too. There's probably not one in here I don't like. But I was very excited to kind of be able to sit there and listen to, I believe her name was Trisha Malcolm, talk about the different offerings from Rowan and the different yarns and tons of patterns. Like, she showed tons of patterns and talked about their different collections. So that's how I heard about both that wave wrap and the Potterdale, and you guys will be seeing those soon. Okay, so that ended Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. And then Saturday, it started at 10 again. And the morning drive, basically that's how what they called like the start of the day talk. And that was with Georgia Farrell. And she is such a cool designer, and I have never heard of her before then. She talked about her design process and things that inspired her, and she talked about some of her favorite patterns and just all sorts of different things. So it was really cool to kind of talk to her and just get to know her as a designer. Now, after that, my next class was from 11:30 till 1, and that was with Keith Leonard. And it was mind-blowing tips and tricks with Keith Leonard. So if you don't know him, he is the dyer behind Yarn Snob Yarns, I believe. And he is a great teacher. He taught a bunch of, good tricks and different tips of things that I've never thought of or would have never thought of. Stuff that you probably learn as you go along, but it's good to have somebody show you. And I really enjoyed that class. He was a good teacher. And after that, we had the second half of the teachers roundtable with all of the other teachers. So it was basically the same thing as Saturday, same thing as Friday, where we got to talk to the different teachers and kind of learn about them and learn where their backgrounds and where they came from. But it was with the other half of the teachers. Okay. After that was a hangout, and this time instead of Patty Lyons, it was with Lena Scarvargason. And she works for Jimmy Beans, and she does the Jimmy Beans blanket club patterns. And it was neat to see. I've known of Lena since Knit and Crochet Now. Do you guys remember that TV show? It used to come on here all the time, and eventually they ended up canceling it. But I still have DVDs of it, because I remember after was it after they canceled it? I don't think so. I remember buying the DVDs because I had wanted to just watch the episodes. Anyways, she talked about their blanket club, and I learned about it. And basically what their blanket club is you sign up, they send you a blanket, a kit a month to make part of the blanket, and they have 2 different types of yarns for their kits. They use Tosh, I think they said Tosh blanket, and then they have another one that's all acrylic that's called Beanstalk, and that's something that Jimmy Beans came out with. And what's cool is that both of them are in the same colors. So the Tosh blanket looks like the Beanstalk blanket color-wise. Now, they also have 2 different blankets. Am I saying that right? They have a knit and a crochet blanket. That's what I mean. And the knit and the crochet blanket, they're meant to look like each other. So I thought that was pretty cool. I really liked the idea of having 2 different crafts there and 2 different types of yarn that you can use. One's more expensive and one's less expensive. And I just learned a whole bunch of stuff that I never really knew about. After that hangout, we had another class, and this class was Flawless Finishing with Keith Leonard. And this was where I learned to mattress stitch. And he is such a good teacher. He taught us basically, we have handouts and stuff to refresh our knowledge, but he taught us basically how to mattress stitch from every which way we need to. From bind off to bind off, cast on to bind off, cast on to cast on, vertical to... You guys get the idea, right? So it was really cool walking through each type of mattress stitch to learn what we need to do in what type of situation, and learn, well, what if this side is longer than this side, and just all the different things that can come up when you're seaming garments. And what's cool about Keith is that he actually started knitting when he was younger. He got taught from his music teacher, and as he grew up, he worked in different yarn shops, and he actually started a finishing business to finish garments. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. He gave us a ton of different tricks, in order to make the seams look as good as you'd want them to look, right? Because you spend all this time working on a garment, you definitely want them to shine, to not bring the entire garment down. Because if bad seaming can like ruin an entire piece of work. And when you spend months knitting something, you don't want that to happen. So after that class, which I really enjoyed, I'm going to try to match or stitch all the things together now just to practice. But after that class, we had the second sponsor chat, and that was with Cascade Yarns, and it was with Shannon Dunbobbin, and that was really cool too. I've always used Cascade Yarns, but you know, with yarn companies, you never know all of the things that they offer. So one of the things that she mentioned was that Cascade now has neon colors in some of their yarn lines. So I'm like, neon, come on guys, that makes me super happy. So she showed us oodles of patterns, and like they had some they had a sweater with like color block neon. It was like a black sweater with color block neon blocks, and I'm like, oh, I can't even. And some of their Cascade, I think Cascade Pacific has neon. I think some of the Cascade 128 has neon, and some of the 220. It just made me so happy. So we saw a bunch of patterns from Cascade and I heard a bunch about their different yarns and what goes into how she picks the different yarn lines and where they're manufactured, where they come from. She says she's visited their manufacturing before and sees how they run things and how some of her manufacturers are trying to go zero waste, or water waste is supposed to go down. It was very, very cool just to hear about that. I mean, obviously, as just a consumer, I don't know that much about running a business, but she seemed to be able to articulate the different types of ways that Cascade was trying to minimize their impact on the environment. So I thought that was really cool. That ended Saturday, and then on Sunday we started at 11:30 because there was no morning drive, which was actually really good because by Sunday I was getting very tired. Sunday was my third class, and it was Captivating Cast-Ons and Brilliant Bind-Offs with Shayna Billow and Keith Leonard. Now, on Sunday, they had a bunch of, like, double teacher classes, which was really cool. The problem was, like, you only could pick one. So I ended up picking the Cast-On and Bind-Off class, and we learned a bunch of different cast-ons and bind-offs and when they would use them and when they would be useful. And different things like, since both of them, Keith was there and he does a whole bunch, he was seaming, I mean, he ran his seaming business for a while. So they talked about the different cast-offs, cast-ons and bind-offs and how they could help seaming or how they could mess it up because it's all sloppy. So that was really cool to hear that perspective. And I enjoyed that class very much. I thought that was a fun class just to have two different teachers. One would show like a cast on and then, one would show a cast on and then the other one would show like a corresponding bind off, and they would go back and forth, and it was really cool. You can tell that they are super good friends, and that just made the class even more fun. After that class was basically the wrap up, and the wrap up was with Carson Demers. And if you know about him, he has written a book about knitting comfortably, and I'm gonna put it here because I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about like your posture and ergonomics, and he basically did a chat about self-care and just taking care of your body and making sure that you knit comfortably, making sure that you invest in a good chair and you find the right knitting needles for you. it was great to hear him talk. So after that, that was it. That was the wrap up, and I really did enjoy like every second of it. So if you are ever on like the fence about doing a virtual knitting retreat, I would definitely recommend Jimmy Bean's Wool because I had a blast doing it. So okay, that was my long spiel about the retreat. I'm sorry, it's 51 minutes in. I am only going to share a couple of patterns with you just because I talked for so long. So there is one I want to show you, and I keep wanting to show it to you. So I'm going to bring it up. This is called Shetland Skies. And I was gifted this. Somebody sent this to me, and thank you so much. They're a podcast viewer, and they said that this reminded them of me. So this is what I was talking about when I mentioned that I want to use my Holst tides on something. And I think that that would be a lot of fun and a great practice of color work. Now, it says it's in fingering weight yarn, and the gauge is 24 stitches and 28 rows equal 4 inches. And the needle size is 3.5. Now, the medium large is 52 inches hem circumference, and the extra large to extra extra large is 60 inches hem circumference. So I think that the color work on this is gorgeous, and I just need to figure out and kind of swatch around to see what I'm going to do in terms of my yarn colors. So it says how many colors of yarn does it use? I didn't print out that much. But if it uses more than I have some, like I said, I have some super soft, whole super soft I can also use. And I even have some smaller cakes of it as well. But this is definitely one I want to kind of work on. And this will be coming after I cast off on my Wildflower Pullover. And I think that it will be good for practice with color work, which is exactly what I need. So thank you so much for sending me that pattern. Okay, this is another one I'm going to show you, and this is because I was reading and this designer has decided that they are going to basically get out of knitwear design, and they changed all of their patterns to free as of February 2025. So the designer's name is Audrey Borrego, and I'm putting it up here. Now, I have mentioned, I believe, at least one of her designs before, and it was Oleander. And as I'm putting up the link to her design store, I'll show a picture of Oleander. And I just thought that this was such a beautiful lace top, and it's a shame that she's going out of designing, and obviously she doesn't say why, but it's her choice, and I hope that whatever she decides to do, she is very successful in it. But I wanted to show you this one, and this is called Carmen, and this is a DK weight cardigan with just a little bit of color work on the end and ribbed sleeves. So there's the color work, and there's the ribbed sleeves, and I think that's why I love this so much. I'm almost tempted to want to make this oversized. Okay, hear me out. So the sizes are 33.5 to 68 3/4. So I almost want to do this. I want to make this with a bigger body, right? Almost like my Always There cardigan, a big body, and then make the arms that are ribbed smaller. So use a smaller size for those. I don't know though. You know how I love cardigans, and I do love this one. And like I said, it is free. The gauge is 22 stitches and 28 rows, is 4 inches in stockinette. It says Carmen is a DK weight raglan cardigan knit from the top down in mirrored colorwork band on the lower body. It starts flat with the upper body and the v-neck. The body is then knit in the round with stitches cast on for the steek between the two fronts. The sleeves are knitted straight in 2x2 ribbing. Button bands are picked up all around the neck and also knit in 2x2 ribbing. Oh, so it's steeked. That's fun. So that means that there's no purling. Oh, you know what? Hang on. So, I'm going to go back to this really quick. I forgot to mention this. So, eventually, after I cut this, not after I cut this, before I cut this, no, after I cut this, I had to put some, you worked the front and the back separately. So, you ended up casting on a second steek to knit the front in the round, but since the back is knit in short rows, you can't do that. You have to knit it flat. So I know what you're thinking, color work, knitting flat, yuck. So I did a row, purling. I mean, it's not a big deal. I can do it, but I started thinking and I'm like, can I knit this backwards? So yes, I taught myself through YouTube. So I guess I didn't teach myself. I watched a YouTube video in which the person filming the video taught me how to knit backwards, and I learned, and it was so much better. And now I feel like I could knit colorwork flat and it's not a big deal. So just keep that in mind. I thought that was really cool. Okay. I wonder. I'm going to pick one more pattern. So let me find it. Sorry for the ruffling. Okay. This is a previous pattern prize winner and that's why I picked it. So this is called Porcupine Ridge. And it is a really cute little cowl. And this is specifically made for, you know, like that really gorgeous hank of yarn that you don't know what to do with. Let's read about it. It's light fingering and the gauge is 27.5 stitches and 40 rows. So that's 4 inches in lace pattern in the round. And you need between 180 and 200 yards. So it says soft, light, and small enough to tuck in your pocket. Porcupine Ridge lets you transform a small amount of yarn into a bit of luxurious warmth to wear on chilly days. Named for the view from my sister's home, this cowl stitch pattern evokes the mountains and rivers around Whitehorse, Yukon Territory. Geometric lace makes the most of your yardage, while columns of 2-stitch cables give some structure to the cowl. Instructions include tips for choosing a yarn that works with the design, adjusting the pattern if you run out of yarn, and working the 2-stitch cables without a cable needle. So the yarn suggestion are Shibui Knits Pebble with 1 skein, and then they mention like a Nunavut Kiviot Arctic Fox Lace skein, or approximately 190 light fingering lace, heavy lace, light fingering weight yarn. So that's really pretty and very delicate. I love whenever people pick patterns that I've never seen before, but then I kind of get like overexcited because I'll see a pattern and then my brain's like, oh wow, I want to make that. But like I am working on 2 sweaters right now, guys. And not only are they 2 sweaters, I'm working on 2 sweaters that are both at the sleeves. How do I always do that to myself? I don't get it. Because this is what happened last time, right? I mean, I need to plan these things better. And one day I will. I promise. But not today. Okay, that's all I've got for you guys. I hope that you are having an amazing week. I hope that the weather is kind to you, and I hope that you have all of your knitting dreams fulfilled this week. That's all I've got. I hope to see you guys next week, and if you could, please give the video a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye!